questioning Loretta Lynch. Will she become the nation's first female black attorney general? Slow to recover, New England digs out from under several feet of snow as power remains out for thousands. Catholic Schools Week. We visit a Catholic school serving children with disabilities. And man up, Pope Francis encourages fathers to be active in the lives of their children. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Wednesday, January 28th, 2015. Good evening from Washington. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick with your news now. A Harvard graduate is seeking to become the first black female U.S. Attorney General. Susanne LaFrankie was at the confirmation hearing for Loretta Lynch today and reports from Capitol Hill tonight.
Brian, the experienced prosecutor had a poised, unflappable presence. Much of the questioning focused on illegal immigration. When challenged, the nominee defended the president's decision to shelter millions of illegal immigrants from deportation. But Lynch said they have no right to citizenship under the law.
Will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
The respected Harvard lawyer credits her success to humble Southern roots guided by her Baptist minister father, who looked on with pride.
The Constitution, the bedrock of our system of justice, will be my lodestar.
The Republican-controlled Senate Judiciary Committee was cordial yet direct, prodding the nominee about immigration, terrorism, abortion, and executive power.
You understand that your role is such that on occasion you have to say no to the person who actually appointed you to the job and who you support?
Senator, I do understand that that is, in fact, the role and the responsibility of the Attorney General, and, in fact, a necessary obligation on their part.
The Attorney General is the people's lawyer.
The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York would replace Eric Holder, who's been a lightning rod for conservative criticism. Critics claim Holder aligned himself more with protesters of police violence than law enforcement, a charge he denies. Lynch wants a different legacy.
Few things have pained me more than the recent reports of tension and division between law enforcement and the communities we serve.
Lynch helped prosecute the New York City police officers who severely beat and sexually assaulted a Haitian immigrant in 1997. She also prosecuted former New York Congressman Michael Grimm. Her office is currently investigating the police chokehold death of Eric Gardner. Dozens of members of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, an organization of which Lynch is a member, attended the hearing wearing their trademark red.
We're very honored. And one day we'll get over the fact of being a first and a first and a first, because there will be others.
Round two is tomorrow, where 8 witnesses, 3 of whom are involved in lawsuits against the Justice Department, and they're set to testify. The first witness is former investigative journalist Cheryl Atkinson, who alleges the administration hacked into her computer. Brian?
Thanks, Susanne LaFrankie on Capitol Hill. Jonathan Keim is an attorney for the Judicial Crisis Network, and you attended the hearing for Loretta Lynch today. How do you think she did?
Well, there's two sides of the same coin. She came across as very prepared and professional. And proved that she has the political skills necessary for the job. I think the big question that everybody's asking is, did all the right answers that she gave today actually mean anything? Is she going to follow through on them?
And some of the senators are very concerned the Attorney General's office is being used for political purposes. Listen to this question.
You wouldn't consider yourself to be a political arm of the White House as Attorney General, would you?
No, Senator, that would be a totally inappropriate view of the position of Attorney General.
Jonathan, what do you think of that response to the question?
Well, I think it's the right answer. The Attorney General position is a little bit unusual in that they have a dual role. As the advisor to the president, they're not simply working for the president. They're the chief legal advisor for the entire government. And that means that the Attorney General has to be committed, first and foremost, to the law and the Constitution. And that requires the Attorney General to be able to say, to be able to, under pressure from the president, tell the president, no, you can't do this, or tell an agency that really wants to do something that they can't.
I find it interesting the departing Attorney General, Eric Holder, refused to defend the Defense of Marriage Act. Isn't the Attorney General supposed to uphold the law, not refuse to defend it?
Yes, that's exactly right. There are two situations where an Attorney General can decline to defend a law properly. One of them is where the Supreme Court's declared it unconstitutional, and the other is where it would impinge upon the President's core executive powers. But in both cases, the government is obliged to make known to Congress that it is not going to be enforcing the law. And Attorney General Holder's decision in that regard was based on no Supreme Court case, and it affected no core executive power.
Very tense time for law enforcement. I think of the situation in Ferguson and the Attorney General's role there. What gives Ms. Lynch the background to lead the department right now, do you think?
She's a career prosecutor and has a lot of experience with law enforcement issues. And as someone who spent a long time in government, both as a U.S. attorney, well, actually twice as a U.S. attorney, she's very familiar with the relationships between people and police, and has had to observe and oversee some of those issues herself in her own district. So she's going to be fairly well equipped for that. As an attorney general, there's a unique opportunity to speak out on issues that she cares about, and I think that could be potentially both a big help and also a potential point of liability.
It sounds like she's going to be confirmed. Do you think so?
The chances look pretty good. It's not entirely clear, although I suspect that she probably will be.
We'll see what happens tomorrow. Jonathan Keim with the Judicial Crisis Network. Thanks for joining us on EWTN News Nightly.
Glad to be here.
Some of the other stories our EWTN News Nightly team has been covering in today's world. Jordan's government may soon meet the demands of terrorists with a prisoner swap. Authorities there say the military is willing to negotiate with the Islamic State for the release of a captured Jordanian pilot. Wyatt Goolsby reports.
Brian, if the Kingdom of Jordan agrees to a prisoner swap, it would be something relatively new for that government. Jordan has traditionally had a hardline approach towards Islamic militants, not agreeing to negotiate with terrorists. But ongoing pressure from inside the country may change that. Since this video was posted by ISIS terrorists yesterday, Jordanian officials have been working to free the captured pilot in the photo. ISIS claims the Jordanian and the Japanese hostage, Kenji Goto, will be killed within 24 hours unless Jordan frees an Iraqi woman sentenced to death for her involvement in a 2005 terror attack. Now the pilot's father is speaking out, saying he approves of a trade that would free his son.
If anything is to happen to Muaz, I will hold those accountable. Muaz's blood is precious. It's precious, and it represents the blood of all Jordanians.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says his government has been working with Jordan to get their captive released. The hostage crisis unfolded just 2 days after Japan pledged $200 million to fight ISIS.
We pray for him, and we never give up.
It's unclear if ISIS will accept Jordan's offer. Tom Sanderson, a terrorism expert, says freeing both prisoners is a long shot.
Giving up a pilot and potentially the Japanese journalist may not be seen as a fair trade by some within the ISIS organization. So a lot of things remain to be seen here.
Sanderson also says it's critical for the United States to urge its allies not to pay ransoms.
We don't want that money going into the ISIS bank account, and we don't want the market for hostages to be strengthened by word getting out that, in fact, money was paid. So we definitely do not want that to happen.
Jordan's foreign minister says his country has asked for proof that the pilot held hostage is alive but hasn't received it. At this point, the 24-hour deadline ISIS had called for is expired, so it's difficult to say if either hostage is still alive. Brian?
Thank you, Wyatt. A Libyan affiliate of the Islamic State claims responsibility for an attack on a Tripoli luxury hotel that killed 10 people. An American and 4 Europeans died along with 5 guards. The slain American is identified as David Berry, a contractor with a Virginia security company. The terror group says Tuesday's attack avenges the death of a suspect who died in U.S. custody earlier this month. That man had been indicted in U.S. federal court over his alleged role in the 1998 al-Qaeda bombing of U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. 2 Israeli soldiers have been killed in a missile attack. The missile, fired by the Lebanese Hezbollah group, struck an Israeli military convoy today. It was an apparent retaliation for a deadly airstrike earlier this month attributed to Israel. Israel's military launched immediate aerial and ground attacks on Hezbollah positions in retaliation today. Well, travel bans are lifted across the northeast U.S. tonight after a blizzard slams much of the area with heavy snow and high winds. Bitter cold threatened to complicate efforts to clear streets and restore power to thousands of customers. The entire island of Nantucket lost power. The storm buried the Boston area in more than 2 feet of snow. Predictions fell far short of the forecast for New York City and Philadelphia. Some forecasters are now apologizing, and politicians are defending their near total shutdown of travel based on the forecast. Pope Francis urges fathers to get involved in the lives of their children. Francis has frequently praised the role mothers play in families. Today, at his general audience in Paul VI Hall, he turned attention to the critical role of fathers. He warns that problems adolescents face can be traced to absentee fathers, physically at home but not spending time with their kids. He warned against trying to be a best friend rather than a parent.
È vero che tu devi essere compagno del tuo figlio, ma senza dimenticare che tu sei il padre.
The Holy Father saying that the fathers need to act as fathers, not as companions, equal to your child. He says that won't help your child. Francis acknowledged that his words are tough. He promised to speak about the beauty of fatherhood next week. The young Catholic Relief Services worker who died during the Pope's visit to the Philippines is laid to rest in Manila today. 27-year-old Crystal Pedazos was based in the Philippines for a Typhoon Yolanda recovery project. She died after being struck by scaffolding at the site of the papal mass in Tacloban. CRS remembers Pedazos as someone who loved to laugh. Another mass to celebrate her life will be held in Baltimore in the coming weeks. On this 29th anniversary of the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, many of us remember it so vividly. 73 seconds into the flight, Challenger exploded late in the morning of January 28, 1986. 7 crew members died, including Krista McAuliffe. She would have been the first teacher in space. NASA determined the explosion was caused by a rocket booster failure, which ignited the fuel tank. Coming up, finally, the Mexican government provides an answer to questions about the fate of dozens of missing students. And advertisers spend millions on Super Bowl ads that should be cleaner and more respectful this year. On this Wednesday evening, January 28th, it's good to have you with us. I'm Brian Patrick. Mexico's Attorney General confirms dozens of college students missing since September were killed and incinerated. 43 students were seized by police in southern Guerrero State last fall. This is the first time Jesus Murillo Caram said he is certain they are all dead. He cited confessions and forensic evidence from an area near a garbage dump where the crime occurred. His explanation seems unlikely to quell the controversy and doubts about this case. The federal government has been criticized for acting slowly and callously. Thousands of students march in Havana, commemorating the 162nd anniversary of the birth of independence leader Jose Marti. Fidel Castro originally conceived the Night of Torches march when he was a law student in 1953. This was the first Night of Torches since last month's announcement of improved diplomatic ties between the U.S. and Cuba. A group claiming to be the official mouthpiece of Boko Haram publishes images of a military training camp for children. Kids are shown armed with weapons. Intelligence sources say the pictures appear to be real. They are consistent with the terrorist strategy of recruiting and training children. Boko Haram continues to rampage through villages in northeastern Nigeria. More than 40 people have been killed this week alone. Here in the U.S., gas prices are going up for the first time in 4 months. So in the first time in 123 days, gas prices are inching up. AAA says a gallon of regular costs an average of $2.04. That's up just a penny from earlier this week. Gas prices are still lower than they've been in years, averaging less than $2 a gallon in 37 states. Advertisers are again spending record amounts on Super Bowl commercials. Catherine Zeltner reports we could expect to see cleaner, more respectful ads this year.
With the Super Bowl fast approaching, fans are readying not only for the big game, but for the ads as well.
We open on you. Driving in a...
The stakes are high, and there is plenty of money on the line.
So this year, the 30-second spot is going for a record $4.5 million. That's up from $4 million last year.
A steep price, but 111 million viewers are expected to tune in. The payoff could be huge. So advertisers are especially cautious as to how those ads are seen. Many are just releasing teasers.
Shut up, Mom!
2 or 3 years ago, they would release their entire ad, maybe 2 weeks out from the game. And there was a lot of fatigue around those ads. By the time the game rolled around, the people had seen these ads on YouTube a bunch of times.
Many advertisers are also toning down the content of the ads, choosing wholesome images over more racy themes.
I think that's probably because the of the tough year that the NFL has had with sort of domestic scandals. I think that you'll have to see a lot more hopeful, positive, female-focused advertising in the Super Bowl. I mean, there'll be a couple of exceptions.
But if past successes are any indication, Anheuser-Busch scored big last year with its Puppy Love ad. This year's winners will have plenty of focus on cute and fuzzy.
For the most part, I think you're going to see families and dads and moms and puppies celebrated.
Catherine Seltner, EWTN News Nightly.
Thanks, Catherine. And the NFL will run its own Super Bowl ad addressing that domestic violence scandal plaguing the league this season. The public service announcement shows a home with broken pictures, a hole punched in the wall. The soundtrack features a woman calling 911 several times, pretending to order pizza because her attacker is in the room. The NFL ran more than a dozen domestic violence PSAs this season. Following the Ray Rice scandal, the Baltimore Ravens released the star running back after video surfaced of him knocking his future wife unconscious. Up next, we commemorate Catholic Schools Week with a visit to a Catholic high school serving students with disabilities. And can Pope Francis master the art of juggling? We'll see when we come back. It is better to limp along the right path than to walk strongly in the wrong direction. Just one of the many poignant quotes from St. Thomas Aquinas. We celebrate his feast day on this 28th of January. He's a 13th century Dominican theologian, a doctor of the church. Good evening, I'm Brian Patrick, and Thomas Aquinas is also the patron of Catholic schools. During this Catholic Schools Week, Jason Calvi visits one innovative school that's become a model for others.
The doors of many Catholic schools are closed to students like Kate Brockwell.
Public school was the only option.
Kate has an intellectual and a physical disability, but that's not putting the brakes on her learning here at Paul VI Catholic High School in Fairfax, Virginia.
If you should fall for some reason that you can tell people to help you out.
It's one of only 2 Catholic high schools in the Arlington Diocese with a program for kids with disabilities.
Oh, wow.
Those students, 16 in total, take English, reading, math, and work training classes together, and then join the other students for gym, electives, lunch, and homeroom. 200 students serve as mentors and helpers.
Parents with a student who has a special need might not be able to go to a Catholic school. It's not always an option.
The cost for educating students with special needs is more than the typically developing student.
Staff say Paul VI was the second Catholic high school in the country to integrate special needs students in 1998.
Yeah, he feels kind of...
Sarah Brown, a Paul VI grad, says her school inspired her career choice. She's now a teacher in the program.
They just love so much, and they have so much joy and so much happiness, and they're so funny.
And when Kate graduates high school in 2016,
I'm hoping to do something with animals because I love animals.
In Virginia, Jason Calvi, EWTN News Nightly.
Francesca Pellegrino is founder and president of the Catholic Coalition for Special Education. I know that the coalition helps raise money to help students with intellectual disabilities get a Catholic education. Is money the main obstacle that more Catholic schools aren't doing this?
Well, money certainly helps make the programs possible, but really there are attitudes that we are trying to change, and we really are trying to get the word out there that inclusive education in Catholic schools benefits everybody. It's probably the best kept secret. Students without disabilities benefit academically when they are in an inclusive classroom. Students with disabilities benefit. So it's really a win-win for all.
So you're really promoting this integrated model. I think we kind of saw an example of that at Paul VI. What exactly is the integrated model or the inclusive and the benefits of that, as you just described a few of them?
The benefits are that families can send their children to school together, all of them together, and have a Christ-centered education. They feel welcomed, they feel accepted, they're part of the community, they're part of the parish, they're part of the high school life.
This is really more of a vocation for you. What inspires you?
Well, my son was my initial inspiration. For me, this has been an absolutely astonishing faith journey. It's had its ups and downs, but I have seen the beautiful transformation that takes place in Catholic schools when children with disabilities are given the opportunities to really rise and meet the challenges and meet their potential. And the benefits for the students with disabilities are lifelong.
Well, those who have been blessed, like I have been, with a Catholic education, realize that that should be available to all, regardless of any disabilities. Let's talk a little bit about Holy Cross Academy. They enrolled 2 students with Down syndrome. How do they prepare for that sort of thing?
They have the leadership that has a wonderful vision and is truly committed to this. They took a year to prepare for this, to do staff training, professional development. We helped them with that with our professional advisory board. We provided seed funding, and the 2 girls are doing beautifully and actually were invited to take up the gifts at the Rally for Life just recently.
How beautiful. So there are connected resources, things such as speech and occupational therapy that are often offered in public schools that most Catholic schools can't offer for various reasons. Shouldn't that also be a priority?
The parents really want a Christ-centered education. That is the most important thing. They want all of their children to have the same education. They want all of their children to be in school together. So they make choices, like we all make choices for our children.
So finally, does this inclusiveness involving students with disabilities, doesn't that really speak to a Catholic identity of a Catholic school?
Absolutely. It speaks to the unity in the body of Christ. Inclusion is one in the body of Christ.
The founder and president of the Catholic Coalition for Special Education, Francesca Pellegrino, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And for the good work you do.
Thank you.
Well, the cause for the beatification of an Italian laywoman who helped shape the church in the 20th century is now open. Chiara Lubick founded the Focolare movement. It promotes peace and unity of all people. It's present in 194 countries. The Vatican Secretary of State issued a written statement today. It says Pope Francis hopes her example will inspire renewed faithfulness to Christ and generous service to the unity of the church. Well, as Pope, you do a lot of juggling, and Pope Francis, you could say, is learning from the best of them. More than 150 members of the Italy-based Circo Madrano visited the Holy Father today. The circus has been performing for popes this past 20 years, and this is the first audience with Pope Francis. Meeting with the Holy Father later, a representative asked for prayers for the circus folk and the world. Pope Francis told him he would pray that all circus people continue to bring happiness. What a beautiful prayer. For the EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Brian Patrick, and on this feast of St. Thomas Aquinas, we close tonight listening to Adoro te devote. Composed by St. Thomas, the Poor Clare nuns sang it for last year's Corpus Christi procession at the Shrine of the Most Blessed Sacrament in Huntsville, Alabama.